This meeting's, the Peninsula Unified School District Citizens Oversight Committee comes to order. About 4 p.m. That's, roll call
Chair Kevin Dayton,
here.
Ben Beasley.
Here.
Kurt Obermeyer. David Ortiz.
Here.
You have a forum.
Great. Introduction of new member. David, if you could introduce yourself, and I'd be interested in hearing how you found out that you decided to apply for it, since we're hoping for a full committee one day.
Or who found out?
Generally speaking, I'm a volunteer of sorts for all kind of community organizations. I'm a part of the site committee for Delray Oaks Elementary, and I received word from, or at least about this organization, through either a parent square message or like a peach jar, something of that sort. But typically, as somebody who volunteers for quite a few things, we're like a certain type of breed of people, you know?
Right.
So I would say we're few and far between, unfortunately.
A few more in, but it's good to hear that Paris Square or one of the district bulletins alerted you to this. And as well, Ben knows, and I went to the school board and I said, people within your districts who are active in schools and want to watch over this money that the taxpayers have authorized for us, and I guess I'll have to go back again and continue to do it and remind them of this. So thank you for your service. Thank you for coming on board. Election of vice chair due to vacancy. Well, we could either appoint Kurt. Has Kurt been here longer than you've been?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, I nominate Kurt to be the vice chair.
Second.
All right, let's just do a voice vote. All in favor of appointing Kurt as chair, as vice chair? Aye.
All right.
Done. Review of Citizens Oversight Committee rules and responsibilities. I see here we have a handout from John Smith, the attorneys for the district. Are they going to come on virtually for a presentation, or are we just going to go over this on our own?
We're just gonna go over the.
Yeah, I'll just go over
You're gonna
it
do it.
just
Great.
briefly. Yeah, just
Very
briefly.
good.
So you all should have the handout in front of you. And some of you may have seen this before, but given that we do have a new member, I wanted to go over this again. So I'll just, like I said, go over it briefly. I'll go to the second page. So the purpose of the Citizens Oversight Committee really is to inform the public, to advise the public, and to review and report on expenditures. So that's what we do each meeting. We look at the expenditure reports that we have in front of you. You look at those, there's questions that come up, but it's really the primary responsibility of this group is to review those expenditures related to the two bond measures that we have, Measure I and Measure A.
But we're really not informing or advising actively.
So in that context, it's really as if you're approached by people from the community, public, you as your role as a member of the Citizens Oversight Committee. That's what advisement means. Like, hey, you know, we review the bonds expenditures. You know, this is what we see. This is what's appropriate. Those sorts of things. It's not advising as far as what projects to approve, what projects are going to receive bond funding, those sorts of things that happens at the board level. But that's really at the level of this committee here.
This, there are some oversight. One of the things here is the district spends its money properly, so we never really have all that much to do. But if we were to, for example, find something that concerned us, we could do a resolution and send it off to the school board for discussion. We could show up there in person expressing concerns about expenditures that we feel are inappropriate. But I've been on this now since 2018, and nothing unusual has ever been seen. Our presentations each year of the annual report are usually very positive. So, there is the education code opportunity for us to, have some, while not policy-making authority, definitely put the pressure on the board to do its job. But we haven't seen that to date.
Yeah, so piggybacking off of that, if you would go to the next page, committee activities. So as support the primary role. So reviewing the annual performance of financial audits, so we'll bring those forward to or make those available to you. Inspect facilities and grounds with prior clearance, so if there's ever an opportunity you want to take a look at some of the work, you'll connect with me, we'll make sure that we'll make the appropriate arrangements for that, so if you wanted to take a look at, a project that's either underway or complete, just let me know, I can make those arrangements. We'll skip the review deferred maintenance plans, but really you can reviewing the district's efforts to maximize bond proceeds and other activities directed by our school board. The next page, the committee shall provide oversight to ensure bond revenues are only used for construction, reconstruction, rehabilitation, or replacement of school facilities. So as part of a district's facilities bond, those are the primary things that we spend the funding on in coordination with whatever the bond language or the ballot language that went to the voters. And then ensure no funds are used for teacher administrative salaries unrelated to construction under the bonds. Generally, you won't see salaries in these expenditure reports. However, there are a few, and those are specifically related to the support of the bond. So we have a bond management firm that's separate from that, but we do have one employee at the district level who supports the bond. So you'll see their salary in here, and it's related to their activities with support of the bond. The next slide, not within the scope of the committee. So participating in the actual bond sale insurance issuance process related to those decisions, determining how bond funds shall be spent, and participating in the bid process for contractors, consultants on bond projects. So all of that lies within either district staff or the school board. The school board will determine how bond funds are spent. There's a process in which they go through to review projects, and then they'll ultimately approve the projects. And then once again, committee members should seek superintendent or designee's permission before visiting job sites or construction sites, or contacting district contractors or consultants. If you ever have a question about anything, reach out to me and I'll either answer the question or I'll figure out what the best process to move forward with that is. Limits of committee members, going on to the next slide. There is educational code and government code that outline the financial interests. So as a committee member, you're prohibited from having any kind of financial interest in any of the projects. So what that might look like is you own a construction company who's actively working on one of the jobs for a school or bids on our projects. You wouldn't, you'd want to disclose that, and that would prohibit you from serving on the committee. And then also as a committee member, the Political Reform Act, some of you may know that as the Form 700. If you've ever heard of that. If there's any conflicts of interest through that process, you also want to disclose that. There may be things that may prohibit you from serving on the committee.
This oversight committee, however, isn't on the list of the officials who have to submit the forms.
Correct. The committee also set dates for regular meetings, which we have here. We meet 4 times a year or once each quarter to review quarterly activity. And then one of those meetings, we review the full annual activity for the bond for that fiscal year. Procedures for the meetings. All meetings, committee should be called, notice, held, and conducted subject to the Brown Act. So this meeting is held very much just like a school board meeting or any other Brown Act meeting is. We have to publish the meetings publicly, make sure that the agendas are public. We have to stick to the items that are on the agenda, and then we can't stray away from that in our conversations. Anything that's outside the scope of the agenda or that particular item, we have to maintain our conversations that we have here publicly within the confines of the agenda. You may participate via Zoom, those sorts of things, but there's a notice process around that. Typically, we try to hold the meetings in person, but there is an opportunity through notice that we can, or you can participate virtually. And then the committee may adopt procedural rules. We have a set of bylaws that's been adopted from the board that outlines the committee. If you have, I don't know if that's in here. It may not be, but we can get a set of those as well. Minutes, so we maintain minutes. Heidi maintains those minutes for us. We publish them and make them available, and those are reviewed at all the subsequent meetings. So the minutes from this meeting will be reviewed at our following meeting that we have. The minutes from the previous meeting will be reviewed in this meeting. I think this is the last two more here, let me see. On the quorum and voting procedure, yeah, this is the last slide. So because this is a meeting that is subject to Brown Act, we have to follow the rules for quorum and voting. Quorum in this context means that we have since we have 4 members, the committee is 7 members, a minimum of 7 members. We're actively trying to fill all 7 members, but as of now, we have 4 members. So a quorum in this context would be a quorum of the 4 members that we have available. So for example, today we were able to start the meeting because we had quorum with 3. And that's how we're able to move forward. We don't have to have a quorum of full 7 just yet because we don't have full 7 active members. And then voting, each committee member shall be entitled to 1 vote, affirming your vote as we just did previously with an aye. So the chair will call for those votes. We'll do a roll call and then you'll be able to indicate what your vote is.
Any questions? If you could just email the current bylaws to the 4 of us, that would be great, especially if you privilege and have a copy. If I remember right, the bylaws are also a link on the website as well for people.
Yes, so
I'll email them out next week.
Very good. All right. Thank you, Ryan. Now public comments. There's nobody from the public here, so we won't have any comments. Item F, review and adopt minutes of December 11th, 2024 meeting. I didn't see anything that needed to be changed or anybody else. You can take 15 seconds to look at it.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, let's do a roll call vote on this. Approving the minutes or adopting them.
May I reconfirm the motion was by Kurt, seconded by Ben?
Yes. By the way, we should know Kurt arrived at 5:08.
Got that. Chair Kevin Dayton,
Aye.
Ben Beasley,
Aye.
Vice Chair Kurt Obermeyer,
Aye.
David Ortiz,
Abstain, I was not present.
motion passes.
Great. Item G, review financials for Measure I and project updates. October 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2024. And Ryan, you'll read that and maybe just a brief explanation for a new board member about the financials and the warrant activity and why we do this.
absolutely. So this, the next document in your binder there is going to be, as I mentioned earlier, reviewing of a quarter of fiscal activity for the bond. So this is from October this year through December, I'm sorry, October of 2024 through December of 2024. What you're reviewing is that it's presented in 2 ways. So there's going to be 2 reports. There'll be another item, subsequent item. But we're looking at the first report is looking by project, what expenses happened by project. So you'll notice that there's a heading of what that project is and then what the expenses were related to that. I'll go over a little bit more detail in the second report, but in the second report, it's going to be looking at the same information, but it's going to be by vendor and actually what warrants were processed to each of those vendors or contractors.
And by doing the two different categories, gives us a chance to cross-reference and 2 opportunities to say, hey, I'm not sure that particular expenditure is required. And what we usually do here is, I think we can just spend 5-7 minutes right now and everybody can just look at each page. And if you have a question about an item, just call it out to Ryan about the page and the item, and he can explain to you what that expenditure is. Maybe this is probably gonna be a bit challenging for you at first, but I encourage you, ask about anything. It's always good to review things as they go along, because a few things there, the new board members always have questions about it. So let's start. Brian, when we're done, for the benefit of the new board member, I see here that almost anything we want to question about being a first-time board member is under district-wide improvements at the end, where it lists the oddball expenditures.
Page 6.
The last page of the report.
Items 46 through 52.
Yeah, so this district-wide improvements, it could be something that's done district-wide, but also you'll see here administrative costs, and those are costs I said that are associated with operation of the bond. So it could be postage, it could be newspaper publications that we have to do in order to post bids. Spread holding is where we have those administrative costs that are across the system or across the program. We'll hold it there and then we'll distribute a portion that proportionately based on the cost of the project through the year. So for example, if we have $100,000 in oversight fees for our bond program manager, that will be spread appropriately across the projects.
Accounting tactic.
Yes.
CalShape Energy Grant appeared a few times, and actually I'm interested because I know that is a state grant, but we have a little bit of bond money put into that, and what would be the reason for that?
Anything that wouldn't have been covered by the grant in coordination with it, or so in this particular one, this was for district-wide. This CalShape grant was for HVAC heating ventilation improvements related to helping increase airflow in the classrooms, and then also a component of it was monitoring. So we had to be able to monitor air quality, particularly CO2 levels in the classrooms. So that project really focused on putting thermostats in. Our heating and ventilation systems have been pretty much upgraded because of the bond, but we didn't have those smarter thermostats that monitored CO2 levels. So it replaced those, and there was some cost that exceeded what CalShape was able to fund, so we used bond proceeds to pay for that.
And E-rate is federal funding, correct? For-
E-rate is federal. E-rate is federal. It's a technology related funding for telecommunications and network connectivity.
Any questions from committee members about this report?
Just one, and I'm guessing Ryan is anticipating this one, but is the cost of legal defense and all of the attendant the risk of using an inappropriate term, baloney, associated with that included in the Monterey Highfield overall cost?
It would have been, yes, that's correct, but there from this quarter, there wouldn't have been any activity related to that, but the overall cost of the project.
Right. So it nearly doubled the cost of the project is what.
I wouldn't say doubled it, but it was a significant cost.
Well,
of the project.
It was $1.8 million, and there were just over $900,000 of expenses associated with legal defense, so that's
The
close to
field,
doubling the cost.
no, the field itself was around. I have to go back and look at the incomplete budget, but it was around 13 million.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And we should probably expect not to see this line item in the next quarter, and then that should be it, right?
You may see some, so our attorney, you may see some legal fees because there are other things outside of litigation that they'll help with. If there's a bid protest or we need to review contracts or some other aspect of the project, you might see some legal fees associated with that.
Right, because I saw yesterday that they were finishing up installation of the sound system and the huddle and video cameras and a few other things, and it looks like they're pretty much done. I haven't seen the electrician out there since yesterday.
The lights are on, yes.
Yeah, and we had our first lacrosse game under the lights last Monday
Yeah,
night.
that's exciting.
That was
Yeah,
awesome.
That was the first one.
Yeah. And I know my son wishes to say thank you since he scored 4 goals under the lights.
Well, there we go. It's worth it then.
And I think he had 5 assists that game, so it worked out really good.
Nice. Awesome.
Any other questions? All right, great. Let's go to item H, review warrant activity for Measure I, October 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2024.
Thank you, Mr. Dayton. This is similar to the previous report in as far as what projects are going to be on there, so it's going to be similar, but this is going to be the warrant activity or the activity for payments that were made to vendors or contractors. So you'll see them broken out by the heading. The first heading on each page will have, or in each box will have the contractor or vendor that those expenses were paid for, then it will list the project for which they incurred those costs. So as an example, if we're on the first page, you'll see 101 Builders that was related to a La Mesa Elementary project, and those are some of the costs associated with 101 Builder. And then, like I said, it'll go down all the warrant activity by vendor or by contract with this report.
So what we'll do is we'll take 5 minutes, looks like there's about 42 pages. And just look at each item and ask Brian if you have any questions about what it's for.
Just to save everyone's time, I see several places where an item's a warrant, and then there's a corresponding debit against that. That's a instance when we shifted funding to another grant source or something like that.
Could have been, it's either there was the original expense charged here and then moves elsewhere. Potentially that could have been one cause for it. We don't typically get refunds for things, but you might see that some of those credits in here, if there's something that's credited back to us from a vendor. Sometimes we'll get change orders in the negative where they're actually crediting work back, but that ultimately, for the large scope of the project, it's typically not enough to issue a credit, but it's mostly for the instances where things are being shifted around.
Question out of curiosity. What was the hazardous waste at La Mesa Elementary that they had to remove?
Page number, please.
It's page 41. A $950 hazardous waste removal.
How much?
Yeah, I'm not certain. I'd have to go back and look at that particular invoice. Most of the time with these campuses, and that may not be the full cost, right? There could have been other costs in other parts.
That might be it, okay. I was wondering what it cost $950 to remove.
That could have been invoiced for that period of time, but
Okay.
that particular PO may have had a lot.
And I can tell from experience that $950 was something very small and very minor.
Yes, that would be
Like, that's like five floor tiles.
Yeah.
Enough to fill one double bag.
I wonder if maybe they found medical waste in the closet.
Yeah, or a lead pipe fitting or something like that, or
Could be, that's also.
a small tank, that all of that would be around that price, but not much.
Page 50, the interim housing, is that? Okay, that was a small, probably small amount, but.
Page 50.
Mine was still elementary.
Good question. So it's actually not related to housing as far as, you know, a dwelling where people would live. We use that term when it's we sometimes will bring in, we call it on outside of the accounting world, it's like swing space when we're bringing in maybe a portable to use as a temporary classroom while we're renovating another classroom. In this case, I believe it was related to restrooms or some leases of some other storage units or those sorts of things. Once again, I have to look at that particular invoice, but those are the sorts of things it would be. Okay.
Is everyone done looking at the tables? Any additional questions? I think we can all say everything looks like it's spent as authorized. So let's conclude that item.
We don't need to take any action on that.
Nope.
Okay.
We have to take action on this, though. This is the annual report for the 2023-24 fiscal year. And well, you can, I don't think, did we ask for any changes for the last round? I think it was fine as is, and we just needed to come back for approval, final approval on it.
That's my memory.
Yeah, I don't know if David, you want to abstain on this or just join the group in voting for it. But this is just a parliamentary technicality that and nobody from the public, I'm assuming, sent in anything? Okay.
Yeah, and just briefly, for Mr. Ortiz, you might be wondering, and I think we went over it a little bit yesterday, but this is the document. As part of one of the deliverables from this committee is an annual report that will go to the school board. The school board doesn't, will review it, we'll agendize that, and I'll make sure that you all are invited once that goes to the board. But this is a look back at fiscal activity, so that's why it says 23-24. We always do it for 1 year in the rear, right? Because we have to look back and then do the annual report for the previous year. So this is a culmination of the reports you just reviewed. Instead of being 1 quarter, it's actually all 4 quarters for that year. In this case, it'd be 23-24.
Great, and you know, I'll either look at the agenda or you can send me an email. I will be there to make a report. And after making a positive report, I'll also once again appeal to them to try to find people to fill the other 3 vacant positions. But for you know, since I became chair in 2020, we've had nothing but great reports submitted, and the board really appreciates it. So if any of the other committee members want to come and say something to the board at that time, they will profusely thank you for making things so orderly and successful for them. All right, is there a motion to approve the annual report?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, roll call.
Chair Kevin Dayton,
Aye.
Ben Beasley.
Aye.
Vice Chair Kurt Obermeyer,
Aye.
David Ortiz,
Aye.
motion passes.
Great. Future dates for 2025, June 4th. I'm assuming everybody is okay with that particular day, but I guess let Ryan know or Heidi know if there's a problem, because it'd be great to have all 4 people, or maybe by then all 7 people attend. Is there any other matters of business you'd like to bring up at this time? related to-
December 3rd, I will not be available, just, you know.
I'm
It's the same
impressed.
event, they have the same event, the Carmel Chamber of Commerce Annual Awards, it's the same day.
Okay.
It's just 2 years in a row, it's the same.
Ah,
day.
okay.
Maybe we can change that one. Do we have a great need for it to have it on the third as opposed to something like the 12th, 10th?
I think you moved it this last December, didn't you?
I think we did.
We did move it last year, yeah.
So if we get closer, we'll circle it,
Yeah.
an
Okay.
email.
Right.
I just wanna, on behalf of the Monterey lacrosse program and, from the other coaches that I've spoken with, thank you so much for getting that project done. It means a great deal to all of us.
Absolutely, thank you, appreciate that. Thanks to the taxpayers and of the school district for making that possible, and and be happy to report that out at a board meeting if you.
Great. No, it's great to see that project done after so many years of controversy. All right, we're adjourned.
Awesome.
Thank you all, appreciate your time.
David?
Thank you.
You have to float away out there, hopefully it's dry now as you get to
It
your
was
cars.
crazy getting here through Seaside. I had to, like, half of Belmonte was flooded. I was going like 2 miles an hour.
Really?
Yeah, it took me 10 minutes to get from, I went to Marshall's before this thinking I had plenty of time. I left 20 minutes before I was supposed to be here.
Yeah, that's,
It was bad.
Belmonte was completely flooded for like 2
yeah, it
blocks.
came down quick, so I could see, but I couldn't keep up with the drainage, yeah, for sure.